income taxes. Basically, two kinds of income taxes. Income taxes on individuals, that's you, and income taxes on corporations. A corporation's income is its net revenue, the difference between the money it gets in and the cost of producing whatever it sells. Profits, if you like, whatever. I thought you might be interested in a little chart. Starts in 1943, and it compares how much money the federal government got from individual income taxes, taxes on individuals' incomes, versus taxes on corporations' incomes. During the Great Depression, they were about equal. That is, the federal government got the same amount of money in income taxes on the people as it got on the businesses. During the war, I thought you might be really impressed. What was gotten from business was 50% more than what was gotten from individuals. You see, it turns out during the war, it was felt by the mass of people that the corporations and the businesses should make a contribution to winning the war. So proportionate to their capability. So the federal government got 50% more money, $9.5 billion, it's all in current dollars, compared to only $6.5 billion from people. Now fast forward with me to 2008, the last year for which I could get numbers. From corporations, the government gets $304 billion. From individuals, $1.1 trillion.
Oh my God.
You understand, over the last half century, the people of the United States got to a point where they're paying 4 times the amount of money to sustain the federal government than corporations are. Whereas during the war, corporations paid much more than individuals. What's going on here? The same thing that we just answered for Obama. If you allow corporations to gather into their hands the profits, the discretionary wealth of a society, you'd have to be out of your mind to expect them not to do this. Of course they use a part of their wealth to make sure they don't pay taxes. It's worth it to spend $50 billion smearing the United States Congress if a tax law is passed by them that saves you $200 billion. Mm-hmm. How hard is that to figure out? You don't think like that because you don't have the money to smear them in the first place. So there's no point in worrying about the rate of return because you can't make that investment, but they can. Here's a little statistic. If corporations today had to pay an amount of money to the federal government in relationship to what the masses pay, similar to what they once had to do, there'd be no deficit. Let me do that again. If corporations had to pay in relationship to the mass of people, 50% more, as in 1943, today, 50% more than 1.1 trillion, you've taken care of the entire deficit. There is no deficit. You don't have to cut anybody. You don't have to you don't have to cut the nutrition program for pregnant women. That's one of the Republican proposals. Mm. It is, actually. That and getting rid of NPR. No more federal money for the public radio and public television. Grab bag of what every one of those people has fantasized for a while. Doesn't matter, those things probably won't happen. But none of it would be, there'd be no discussion. We would not only have no need to cut anything, but by not having to borrow the money, we wouldn't have 60 billion of extra interest next year either. Those problems would disappear if all we did is make the corporations pay in relationship to the people what they once did. I'm not asking you to do something new, just go back to the way it was. Now, I don't ask you to agree with this plan, but it is an amazing society in which no leader of either party has ever said a word about what I just showed you. These numbers all come, and I have the reference here of the document if you want it, from the Office of Management and Budget in the White House that keeps these numbers. That's where the numbers come from. So everybody knows who should know, but it's a taboo. Last thing, And then I'll stop.
Excuse me. Was not the graduated income tax also different? So if you were a multimillionaire in 1933 or whatever.
I'm going to do that next time. Here I'm just comparing corporate and individual. Next time I'm going to look at the individual, the different upper rates, and you'll see if you're rich, what you pay. All of that will come next time. So we're here just comparing individuals as a group with corporations as a group. But there was a study done by 3 professors of accounting. One was at Duke University, one was at the University of North Carolina, and one was at MIT. What could be snazzier than that? And here, they published this document. I will be glad to give you the reference. And I thought you'd like to know what their conclusions were. They looked at what corporations actually pay. That is, not what the official rate is, but when they have all the loopholes and the deductions, what do they actually pay? And they added up. They added up all the taxes companies pay to the federal government, corporate income tax, all the taxes those same companies pay to the states where they're active, state income tax, and all the property taxes they pay to the local communities. If a company has a factory in a local area, it has to pay property tax. So they added it all up. Here's what they found. They had a sample of several thousand corporations that they studied. The paper was published in 2007. The average turned out to be a rate of total taxation, federal, state, and local combined, below 30%. We find this, I'm quoting now, we find a significant fraction of firms that appear to be able to successfully avoid large portions of the corporate income tax over sustained periods of time, using a 10-year measure, that is, they average for 10 years, of tax avoidance, nice language. 546 firms, comprising 26% of our sample, are able to maintain a cash effective tax rate of 20% or less. According to the New York Times, General Electric, one of the biggest corporations in the United States, reported that its total tax payment over the last 5 years amounted to 14.3% of its profits. When the Citizens for Tax Justice looked at this, they discovered that about 10.5% of that was money that the GE pays to other governments. When you look only at the tax paid to the United States government, General Electric paid to all levels of government, federal, state, and local, a total of 3.4% of its profits. Almost everyone in this room pays a higher rate of taxation than that. Most of you pay a rate of taxation between 20 and 40% when you add together all the taxes you pay. Federal, state, and you lucky folks here living in New York City, you get to pay a tax here as well. The same corporation, GE, that paid 3.4% of its profits in taxes to the United States government, received in 2009 alone a $140 billion bailout from the United States government, to which it doesn't pay anything. That's because one of the biggest banks in the United States is GE Capital. It's a subsidiary of GE that's basically a bank. And they qualified for the bailout for banks. And to cap it all off, who was the person, since our last meeting, that was named by the President Obama to head the council of his financial advisors? Answer, Jeffrey R. Immelt, I-M-M-E-L-T, the current CEO of General Electric. And at this point, if I had a record player, I would play you the national anthem as a fitting close. So I think you can see that if we don't discuss who pays the taxes and who doesn't, if we do not allow the conversation of our crisis to ask questions about where the money is going to come from, rather than just how the money gets spent or doesn't, what we've effectively done is ruled out of order any messing with a tax system that is wildly favoring one part of our culture and not the other. And you all know which part you're in. Thank you very much for your attention. I know I've gone... Thank you very much. I tried to shorten it from last time. I was half successful. But I want to make it easy for folks who have other things to do to leave now. But for those of you who would like to stay and have some conversation and discussion, I'd be glad to stay for a while.
Remember Hofstra.
Oh yes, one announcement I forgot to make. In case any of you are going to be in the neighborhood of Hofstra University tomorrow at 11, I'm giving a talk there. It's in Hempstead. And if you're interested, go to my website where all the activities I do can be seen. It's just my name. Left-hand corner of the home page of that website is a list of all the talks and so on. In May, I'm giving a talk at Hunter College. I'm giving talks at this Left Forum, and I do a lot of that around here. If you're in Winter Park, Florida next month, I do it there. As I've told you before, the audience, not just for this kind of information, but from the perspective that you by now have figured out, even if you didn't know what the Brecht Forum was, the audience for what I do and what I say and how I say it is growing much faster than I can't handle. I cannot do the number of talks and media, and it's remarkable. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with a phenomena of reaction to what's going on in this culture that I keep telling folks. For those of you who thought you were alone, you're not alone. For those of you who thought there wasn't a space for critical thinking, that space is bigger in the United States now than it has been in my lifetime. And I'm older than most of you. So at this point, as I've said many times, it's really up to us to go out there and shoot our mouths off, because people are interested and people are receptive. And I don't know how long that'll last, and I don't know how soon it'll come again. And it would be terrible if we missed this opportunity. Terrible, terrible. Okay, so I'm assuming that many of you want to stick around a little bit, but if you need to go, believe me, no one will hold it against you. Okay? Yep.
Can you comment on what's happening in Wisconsin?
In Wisconsin, yes, very sad. Wisconsin, which has a long history in the United States of progressive party politics and progressive things, has a governor from I don't know where, who was very famous. He's a leader of this attack on public employees. They're all lazy, they're all bums. He's cutting back, laying off large numbers of them, cutting back public services. But the thing that really got him a lot of attention last week, I believe it was when he made a remark to the press, I don't even know why, in which he explained to them the following. I want to reassure you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, or something like that, he said, that I've had extensive conversations with the Wisconsin National Guard. So in the event the public employees make any boo noise about being fired or having their programs of activity cut back, I will keep order and they will understand what they have to do. This is a very interesting way of thinking. This is a man who is not only going after the public sector, but is thinking ahead like a good chess player. He may need the army to control the situation. Sound a little like Egypt? Think, a governor is having to mobilize the National Guard because of what he is about to do and what he imagines the reaction might be.